just give you an introduction. Welcome, you guys, to Essential Oil 101 Cat and Dog Basics. You guys are in for a treat tonight because we have the Miss Gabby Rackley here, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her background and why she's the expert here. And if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, or go ahead and raise your hand from the Zoom. I think we've all been on Zoom long enough to know how to raise our hands, but feel free to raise your hands and we will get to those questions. Gabby, take it away.
Hey, Stephanie, you'll be fielding the chat questions, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, everyone. I am Gabby. I typically go by Gabby, and it is not working. No. Why? Oh, there we go. So I just want to do a little FDA disclaimer before I start with anything. This information is intended for educational purposes only. It's not meant to substitute for any medical care or prescribe any treatment for specific conditions. Any of these products are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases or prevent any diseases. So if you guys are here for that, I would ask you to step away, but otherwise, this is for education. This is my introduction. I have been an intensive care unit nurse in the veterinary field for the last 8 years. I actually do primary care as well, but my focus is intensive care. I recently got certified in aromatherapy specialty with animals itself through Dr. Janet Works program. I'm also a specialist certified through the Doterra University for understanding the oils and for business building. And I'm also a mom now. I have an 11-month-old little boy named Grayson. And everyone says, why Doterra? So for me, I'm going to give you a little picture slideshow and then explain why I chose Doterra. So this is my family. This is my husband, Josh, and my little boy. This is my oldest husky. Her name's Maya. This is our youngest husky. We just got her. She's about 14 weeks old. So she's Grayson's little girl. This is Mishka. And then these are our little twins that we have, Zora and Zelda. Zora's the red one. And then this is my little boy again, just because he's my little pride and joy. So for me, I didn't think essential oils were a great thing. I thought they were all a myth. I never wanted to try them. And then I had my son, and I wasn't allowed to take any of my regular medications because breastfeeding, you know, it passes on to him. And I was having a really hard time getting over postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. And I know that has nothing to do with the class, but it really introduces me into how I got into these products. A good friend of mine, Krista, actually introduced me to the product saying, look, just try it, just try it. And for months, I'm like, no, it's okay. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. And eventually she broke me. I tried the Healthy Habits kit. If you don't know what that is, we'll explain those later. And it has completely changed my life, and it's changed my outlook on medical care in both the veterinary side of things and the human side of things. So I dove both feet into the deep end and essential oils, and it has completely been the best choice I've made in my life, minus having my child. Okay, so I always start with the basics when I do education things. I'm going to give you guys the basics. What is an essential oil? So an essential oil is a highly concentrated volatile aromatic compound. These compounds are used in aromatherapy. They get these compounds through steam distilling or cold compressing multiple different parts of plants. So the flowers, the leaves, the stems, the roots, grass, needles, twigs, resins, all of that stuff. Aromatherapy is the practice of using pure essential oils to enhance health, beauty, and well-being. But all essential oils aren't created equally. You can go to the Walmart and get essential oils, or you can do what we did. And we got pure essential oils through multiple different resources by extremely testing the essential oils. So Doterra is 100% certified pure therapeutic grade essential oils. They go out and get the best product they possibly can, get all of the oils out of those products, test them over and over again to make sure that there's no impurities in those. And those particular oils, because they have no impurities, they're considered safe for people and for your pets. So we don't want any synthetic oils. We don't want any fillers in those oils, because those fillers and those synthetic types of oils can actually be bad because they're made differently. So different oils are not recommended. We typically only recommend doTERRA level oils because they're therapeutic grade. And how do we use those oils? So there's 3 different main ways of using essential oils. You can use them topically through massage, or just dropping the oil with a diluent onto your skin. Same goes with animals. You can put it on their skin. You just got to make sure their hair is out of the way if they have longer hair. You can do orally. Internally is the way we would do it in the veterinary field. We would say internally. We don't typically put the bottle to their mouth, but I thought that was a cute picture for everybody to see that dogs will lick the bottles. And then we can do it aromatically. Again, we don't want them to stick their nose in the bottle. Also a cute picture, but you can do it through diffusing. You can actually waft as well by like taking the bottle and like wafting the air around. That can be considered aromatic as well. So when you're using these products with animals, it's a little bit different than with you and I. So with you and I, we'd say, oh, I need clove. I'm going to go take clove in a capsule, or I'm going to mix it in a little tea, or I'm going to put it on my skin with a little bit of fractionated coconut oil. With animals, we actually want them to choose what they want. So there are going to be several recipes in here where I say use X, Y, and Z for that particular recipe. But if your cat or your dog comes up to you and looks at you and then runs away because you have the bottle in your hand, we typically don't want you to do that. And the reason I say that is because of self-selection. But we'll go into more detail on that later. Right now, we really want to focus on diluting your oils. So with humans, we always use fractionated coconut oil or some kind of body butter or something like that to dilute the oil, because your skin's sensitive and so are animals. Animals actually break down chemicals differently than humans, so we really want to dilute it more. It would almost be comparable to using it on your babies. Essential oils, for a dilution guide for cats and dogs, we do a 0.5% to 2% for cats. If you have a really small dog, which is about 20 pounds is the threshold, the same scenario is going to be it's 0.5% for all oils, up to 2% for gentle oils. And I'll explain more on what gentle oil means in a little bit. And then any dog that's over 20 pounds, you can actually go up to that extra percentage of 3%, unless their dog is more sensitive. If you've used them before and you know they're sensitive, I wouldn't go up to 3%, even if you're working your way up. I'd stay lower, because just because they're getting 1% versus 2% doesn't mean it's not doing what it needs to do for the dog. This is just a graph that I've made from Dr. Rourke's teachings on how to dilute essential oils into a certain percentages, because for us, we dilute it with a couple drops of fractionated coconut oil. We don't actually do the math, but for dogs, we do want a lot lower concentration. And so this is just a copy of that for you guys, so that you can make your life a little bit easier if you're going to use it for your cats and dogs. These are essential oils to avoid. And if you were in TerraTalks, there are some on here that are going to be, yes, they're on the avoid list, but we say to avoid them just because it's a lot safer to avoid them. There are certain scenarios where you can use some of these. To give you one, peppermint can be very dangerous in cats, but it also can be beneficial. My cat personally can use peppermint products just because she's a brachiiocephalic cat. If you don't know what that is, it means that their nose is squished. So you got your boxers, you got your Persians, to give you an example. But there are some cats that peppermint is highly recommended to stay away from. Also with tea tree oil, that was talked about in TerraTalks if you were there. TerraTalks is like a scientific explanation that doTERRA gives to everyone at their yearly convention. Tea tree oil, we don't necessarily recommend it to be given topically or orally, but if you're going to diffuse it in your home for you, it's not going to hurt your animal. It's at such a low concentration, and essential oils are so volatile, they're not going to hurt their lungs. It's not going to give them any kind of pneumonia or something like that. This is where I'm going to explain some hot oils versus gentle oils. So hot oils would be clove, cinnamon, cassia oil, oregano, thyme, rosemary. Those are all hot oils. We want to be careful with hot oils just because they can hurt the skin a little bit more than the gentler oils. So that was the big difference between hot oils and gentle oils. And then with citrus oils, when it comes to cats, you have the bergamot, grapefruit, lemon, lime, orange, and tangerine. Those can actually be harmful to cats in larger amounts because they can cause issues with their liver. So yes, you can use them. We just want to use them in more moderation. And then wintergreen with dogs. Yes, there are certain blends that doTERRA has that has wintergreen in them. We're not saying you can't use it with dogs. We just, again, want to use that in moderation. And then this is where it comes from, the dogs and the cats choosing their own medicine. So I really mess up this word. Dr. Rourke messes up this word too, because it's a very long, hard to say word. But here is the phonetics behind it. It's zoopharmacognosy. It's basically animal remedy and knowing. So the animals are going to know what that is going to work best for them. In my teachings, even in the Western medicine styles, if you have an animal that's super anxious and a blanket makes them feel better, we give them a blanket. And the oils are going to do the same thing. So if you put 3 oils in front of them and your dog is bouncing off the wall for one of them, give them that one, because that means that's what makes them happy, and that one is going to do the most beneficial effects for them, both neurologically, psychologically, and physically. If your cat is flicking its tail and hissing at you, I mean, you're not going to chase it with the broom. You're not going to give it a blanket if it's going to freak out. So same effect with oils. I know like pinning their ears back can be something of them being mad. It also all determines it also all is in how you know your dog. So to give you that example of the ears pinned back for all of my huskies, because I have 5 of them, they will pin their ears back when they come up to me, and they will wiggle their little bodies, and that's because they are super excited. In other cases, there are dogs that'll pin their ears back and they're like, oh my God, get away from me. So you just have to know your animal. So if you know your animal and they pin their ears back, because that's going to be a sign of like fear in some dogs, and it might be a good thing for them. So just read their situations. We got this information when we were in classes. Caroline Ingram said, help your dog heal itself. Animals will heal themselves in the wild by eating grass to vomit, or eating certain berries to make themselves vomit, because they know those berries are toxic from self-education over the years, and they do communicate. Animals are very smart. And it's the idea of self-medicating in animals, but that choosing that medication is just like you choosing Advil or aspirin or Tylenol, whichever one you think works best for you, because they all target things differently. This is more on the subject in regards to cues for animals. I just wanted to put that in there because some people don't realize what good cues are versus bad cues. Our context cues for animals are their eyes, their ears, their body language, and their tail. If their tail is flicking around, that's and agitated for a cat, typically that means that they're upset. They want you to walk away, and they will start doing it pretty soon. You don't even have to have the cap off of these oils. You're going to have the cap on the oil to introduce it to the animal. And if they're excited for cats, they're going to roll against it. They're going to be meowing at you if they're normal talkers. For dogs, they're going to be wagging their tail. They're going to be licking the bottle, things of that nature if they're excited and want it. If they want to get away from it, then it's not going to be a good cue. Now, I will say a lot of the hot oils typically makes most animals turn away, but because we're using those internally and not topically or not in the air, they're a little bit different. Yes, we want them to choose their own medications in that sense, but when it comes to giving something orally, if you're mixing it in a food or if you're putting it in a capsule, they can't really smell it that long enough to cause harm when it comes to the psychosomatics. For dogs, it's the same method. I mean, we want them to be relaxed, but if you're giving it orally, it's a little bit different because they're going to get it and it's gone. The scent of it is gone. They're not going to smell it after it's ingested. And some of those hot oils that help with a lot of the antiseptic properties are very deterring to dogs with their strong receptors. But we want them to be relaxed or curious or happy. If they are super stressed or even aggressive, we try to stay away from those oils again for cats and dogs. So adverse reactions, everybody's super worried about starting something new and having an adverse reaction. I completely understand. If you put an oil that's pre-diluted on your pet and they start to have a reaction, you can add more oil to help soothe the skin. Most of these reactions are going to resolve within 24 hours. If they don't, contact your veterinarian. If there's any signs of distress, drooling, squinting because it's gotten in the eyes, excessive rubbing of the face, vocalization outside of the normals, shaking, vomiting, any kind of diarrhea, I'd call your veterinarian. If it's after hours, call your emergency veterinarian so they know what's going on. But typically it's okay at home. It's not going to be something that you have to rush them to the vet right then, but you just have to watch out for those reactions. There are dogs that are going to be allergic to certain things and you just don't know. I would start out with extremely small doses if you have a high allergy already dog. So those blue dogs that are out there that have more allergies than the typical regular dog, the whiter dogs have typically more allergies as well. Just be careful with these guys. Consult your veterinarian before starting anything topically on these guys because they are going to be more likely to have adverse reactions. These are just some of the flex points for dogs. If you can target these points with certain oils and actually help the lists of different body parts, if you're going to do like massage and trying to soothe them and calm them down. So we have a serenity oil that is a relaxing oil. If you want to get your dog super relaxed, you can go on to some of these points. I would do either the spine or the adrenals, even the brain, the pituitary glands. That'll really get them calmed down. Put a little bit of fractionated coconut oil and that oil, essential oil blended together on those points, and you can really help calm them down, not to mention doing it aromatically as well. Okay, so now it's for the fun stuff. We want to do fun stuff here. We don't want to just do all the education, right, guys? Right. Okay, so for our older pets, I typically say massage. We can do aromatic as well, but massage is going to really help these guys when it comes to joint pain, muscle fatigue and stiffness, and this nerve pain is going to be also in that factor as well. It's just going to be a different target area. For musculoskeletal pain and inflammation, we always try to do some kind of cold or hot compress. We want to do massages. We want to do soaks and baths. You can also just do topical assertion of the oil with a roller bottle, but it depends on what we're trying to target. If you have a dog that has some hip pain and it's getting up in the morning and it can't move around, a hot compress before bed with some of these essential oil blends, and it can really help them move around in the morning so that when you're getting ready for work, you don't have to worry about little Fluffy over here and making sure they can get down the stairs with you guys. So for dogs, when it comes to just generalized musculoskeletal pain, for joints, I say a blend of lavender, frankincense, and peppermint for dogs. You can put that in a roller bottle and then roll that over the joints, or you can put it in your, have a pre-mixed bottle, drip it on your hands, really massage it in their fur and put a hot compress over it, or even a cold compress. If they've been running around all day and they're having trouble walking, you can do the reverse. You can do it for recovery and for proactive for the next day. For cats, I recommend lavender, frankincense, and Roman chamomile. And guys, if you don't have some of these ingredients, use one of two of them. All of them are designed to target certain points of that musculoskeletal system. So yes, peppermint's going to really trigger that pain element. Yes, frankincense is going to help with that inflammation. But if you're targeting inflammation that hasn't been treated prior, or the treatment you're using prior isn't working, then you're still going to do something beneficial, even if you don't have the other two ingredients. So
Can
for
I ask
all
a
of,
question?
yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt you. So is it the same, just like, I'm assuming that dogs are basically the same and animals are just the same, that when they're inflamed, that's when they're just like us. We
Right.
start hurting and stuff. So is it important that we're always looking for a way to make sure that they're not inflamed?
I wouldn't say completely get rid of all inflammation. So inflammation in regards to a injury, not necessarily arthritis, but like a true injury, that's a good sign, because then you know something's wrong. So we have what we call a Superman effect in animals, where you give them a painkiller, or you give them anti-inflammatories, and all of a sudden they're perfectly fine. And we don't want that to happen. So in some aspects, having some inflammation and some pain is a good thing, just because if they're not in pain at all, or if they're in less pain, they're like, okay, I can go run again. So for the younger dogs, I would say be careful with how much inflammation you don't want, I guess, would be the proper response to that. But yes, at the same time, if we have a dog that has arthritis or an old injury doesn't necessarily have arthritis yet, but is going to get there, we want to limit that inflammation on that end.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So for this one, for all of the recipes that are going to be done topically, I put a chart just for everyone to reference while we're going through at the bottom for the percentages. For cats, for this, I definitely would recommend a 0.5% to start with. For dogs and under 20 pounds, the 0.5% to start with. And then for dogs over 20 pounds, I would actually start with 1%. As long as they tolerate it. If you mixed 1% together and it's just too much for them, the peppermint's too hot in that sense, or the frankincense too harsh on their nose and they're just not liking it, you can cut down to the 0.5%, or you can even try limiting and just doing lavender once, just doing frankincense once, just doing peppermint once, to see what is affecting them and why they don't want it. So now we're going to go to the joint pain targets. For dogs, it's typically the spine, shoulders, elbows, the carpus, which would be the wrist for us. The back would be the hips, and then their knee joints. For this recipe, I really would like it to stay on the joint. So when you're talking about your knee, you want to stay right where the muscle connects. We're not going to do like the quad area. We're not going to do your upper arm areas, things of that nature. So literally where it targets on the dog in those little circles, that would be where I'd recommend to use this. You can do a compress with this. I would do minimal massage on this one, but you can do massage, just because we're triggering more of the joint itself, so it's more bony and cartilage than it would be muscle. For the next recipe, it's still going to do muscle fatigue and stiffness. It's still going to be that pain and inflammation, but we're focusing on the muscle aspect of it. So the muscle aspect of joint pain is where we're overcompensating because our hips hurt, or we've actually pulled a muscle because we stepped wrong. For both cats and dogs, I recommend a blend of clove and clary sage. Clove is a hot oil, so if for whatever reason we want to start with just clary sage, that's perfectly fine. Both of them are going to attack the fatigue and the stiffness that muscles get when you're injured. Again, I'd start at the lowest concentration on these for both dogs, 1% for larger dogs. It's not going to be something that is going to hurt them if you start at a 1% for the bigger dogs. If you think, again, they're not going to like it, you can go down, or you can take out the clove and just use the clary sage. This one, we really want to get in the muscles. So we want to put it on topically and then actually massage it in. Massaging those joints might hurt, so just be careful not to push too hard, but that massage is really going to help loosen up the joints on top of getting the oils in there. For the next part, excuse me, sorry. There's also going to be nerve pain in this. This is the exact recipe I would use for both muscle fatigue and nerve pain. The difference is for nerve pain, when I talk about nerve pain, I mean those back dogs, those dogs that have slipped a disc or have had surgery on their back, like weenie dogs, corgis, those kind of dogs that are prone to back issues. You're actually going to massage the base of their spines all the way down through where their rib cage would be. That way you can actually get to the joints, not the joints, the nerve connections in the spine. You can actually go down the spine with this, just don't push on the spine for these nerve dogs. But we want to massage beside the spine. Beside the spine will help it get in there without pushing too hard, so we don't cause any more damage. If they've had surgery and they've had the repairs done, just be really careful on that massage, because we don't want to re-injure anything, even though they've had the surgery there. If it's a fresh surgery, you can even use this mixture around the incision, just don't get in the incision. So our next one is digestive trouble. So we all have pets that have had some kind of wicked gas, or they're having nausea spouts or vomiting because they go outside and eat some grass. Some owners don't have this issue, but we have dogs that have reflux just like us. We have dogs that have regurgitation. If you have a dog with mega esophagus, most people don't know what this is. It's actually where the esophagus is too large. I'm not talking about regurgitation for that. Yes, this recipe will help limit some of it, but it's not going to get rid of it. So for mega esophagus, please still do all the things you have been doing before. And then loss of appetite or anorexia, which is where they don't eat at all, because they don't feel good and they just don't want to eat. I have remedies for that as well. Okay, for nausea and vomiting. Okay, so digestion has peppermint in it, so we don't really recommend that for cats. That's why their recipes are a little bit different. Again, as I said earlier, if your cat's already okay with peppermint, then you can reinsert that digestion back into where the Roman chamomile is, or you can keep it the way it is. But I recommend basil, fennel, and digestion mixture for dogs, all dogs, and then basil, fennel, and Roman chamomile for cats. So whenever you have that kitty that's got hairballs, this isn't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about they ate something that doesn't agree with them, or if they're on medications and their medications just make them feel nauseous. You can use this as a preventative if they're on that medication and you are aware of that. If your dog goes outside and eats too much grass, they're going to be nauseous. This will help. I'm not saying it won't make them vomit if they eat grass, because it probably will still make them vomit, but the nausea afterwards, you can attack that. If they have already gotten digestive issues where they vomit quite a bit just because they're prone to vomiting, I have one of those myself. This recipe actually does help. For this, I would recommend starting at 0.5% for cats, 0.5% for all dogs, not just the small ones, just because we have that peppermint aspect for the dogs, and then work your way up. I wouldn't go too much higher than the 1 to 2% for all of them. I haven't seen where my large dog has needed 3%, but that's just my personal case. We might have to go higher for other dogs or even bigger dogs. So we're talking the giant breeds like Great Danes, 3% might be needed. Reflux and regurgitation. So the recipe hasn't changed much, but again, digestion, it works great. It has a blend in there, but we're going to add basil and aniseed to that for the reflux. So if they burp a lot, this actually is a good recipe for gas as well. So just to give you guys that little hint, fennel is going to be in place of the digestion for cats. I will say fennel has a strong odor, so they probably might not like it. So you might have to take it out regardless, but basil, aniseed, and fennel is for kitty cats. I haven't used that one personally on my cats, but I do know that my cats don't really like the smell of fennel. So just preparing you guys. 0.5% is where I would start on that for cats, 0.5% on small dogs, and then 1% on that one for large dogs minus the digestion. If you're going to add that digestion in, I'd do the 0.5% for larger dogs unless it's a giant breed. So loss of appetite and anorexia for dogs, we're going to do ginger, aniseed, and digestion again. So digestion's a popular one for the dogs. And then aniseed, basil, and ginger for the cats. For this, most people aren't going to have this recipe. It's typically, we're going to see this recipe when someone has a dog that's already been vomiting, or a dog that is sick from being on antibiotics or something like that. This is more of a aftercare essentially. But if you do have a dog that has loss of appetite or anorexia and this doesn't work after 24 hours, I would say please go see your veterinarian. That is a thing that can actually hurt or kill both cats and dogs. So that's a serious one. Vomiting is going to be a little bit different. If they vomit once or they're a little bit nauseous and they're still able to eat or still want to eat, I'm not going to recommend you to see your veterinarian on that one. But when it comes to them not eating at all, then or having complete loss of appetite, this will help. But I definitely would recommend going to your vet or at least calling them so they know what's going on. Okay, we have pets that need skin issues, skin help. We have skin. Everyone has skin, so we want to use shampoos every day. We want to use lotions. Dogs don't need shampooing every day. They don't need lotions every day, but they still need skin help. So for that, we do massage, we do shampoos, we can do collars and harnesses. We also do aromatic needs that will help the skin, because if they're getting some of these oils, it will help their skin if they're itchy or something like that. My main recipes are going to be for like scrapes or abrasions. So if they're outside tussling around and they get a scrape on a stick, or if they run into the coffee table, mine love to run into the coffee table. And then for fungal sites, ringworm or any kind of yeast infection, if you have like a new pet that you've gotten on the side of the road, or if you've adopted a pet, a lot of times they have gotten ringworm. Even dogs that spend more time outside can get ringworm. And then like the main one for everyone, flea and tick. We want to prevent that at home, in the home, on the pet. And then if we can't prevent it and we have an infestation, how do we treat it? Okay, for scrapes and abrasions. So for cats and dogs, I recommend Roman chamomile, helichrysum, and lavender. And for this, my favorite is to put it in a spray bottle, because you can blend it up and just spray it right on the scrape. You don't have to touch it. The dog doesn't have to touch it really, other than the actual scrape itself. And if it needs to be covered, you can cover it. You can actually spray it on any pads that you might need to put on if you're putting a bandage on. If you want to do a roller bottle, you can. The reason I say spray bottles over roller bottles, though, is because the roller bottle, if you're touching a scrape that's oozy or has skin cells on it, it's going to get mixed in and contaminate that bottle. So then I wouldn't recommend doing the roller bottle. But if you only have a roller bottle at home and you want to dedicate it to just that animal, sure, do a roller bottle. We want to massage the edges around a wound. So not on the wound. You don't want to massage the wound itself, but around the wound, to keep that moist as well, because we don't want scrapes and abrasions to get super dry. Super dry means the skin's going to crack, and that means pain. For this, because it's all topical, I do the 0.5% for cats, unless for whatever reason it's not working, and then you can go up. And then 0.5% for small dogs, 1% for large dogs. You shouldn't typically have to go up for these things, though. For fungal sides, we want to do Roman chamomile and geranium. So this one, you can use a roller bottle on. It's, again, you're going to have to do it to where it's just for that pet, because you don't want to transmit ringworm through the bottle, because you can. Recommends a spray bottle. It's the best option you could do, so that way you don't have to touch it. You don't want to touch ringworm. If you do end up having to touch it and you can't get gloves, make sure you wash your hands really well, because this can come to you. For this one, same percentages as the last one, 0.5 for cats, 0.5 for small dogs, 1 for large dogs. This one you may have to actually go up on. Ringworm can be a nasty little thing. If it's not working after, I'd say 24 to 48 hours, I'd go up on the percentage just to see if for whatever reason that ringworm is actually like fighting back. And then, hey, guess what? This ingredients will actually work for you. If you get ringworm because you accidentally touched your pet and didn't know it was ringworm, and you passed it on to you and you passed it on to your neighbors, you can actually use this on you as well. So this recipe works for both you and your pet. Just make sure you don't touch it so you don't spread it more. And then the flea and tick prevention. Everybody hates fleas. Dogs hate fleas, cats hate fleas, I hate fleas. I know you guys hate fleas. So for dogs, we're gonna want that Terra Shield blend, geranium and eucalyptus. Yes, I know both of those are in Terra Shield, but if we doubled the dose with the geranium and the eucalyptus together on top of that, you're really gonna help prevent fleas and ticks. The Terra Shield will work on its own. It's just not as effective in my opinion and in my experience. For cats, Terra Shield, I don't recommend putting it on cats. If you're going to put it on their collars, then yes, you can use it on cats. But for cats, especially since a lot of cats don't typically go outside, I would do geranium, citronella, and eucalyptus and that blend on them. For the topical use, this would be high risk areas. So if you're going to the dog park tomorrow, use it on them. Just a little extra protection. If you're going on vacation, I'd use it for the duration of the vacation because you don't have control over the yard you're going to be in or the space you're going to be in. It's not your house. Now, if you're at home, I would actually recommend doing the soaking method. But for this roller bottle, I would do 0.5 for cats, 0.5 for small dogs, and then 1% for large dogs, unless it's a really, really dense area, like you're going in the woods and you're going on a fancy hike. I would do the 1% for cats and then 1% for small dogs, 2% for larger dogs, just so they're really protected. And for this, I say the nape of the neck, but if you're going in the woods and you're going to be tramping around through a bunch of ticks, I would even put it on their paws so that when they touch the ground, they have protection as well. It's not going to make a shield around them. No flea or tick prevention would, but it would really help deter some of those insects from trying to get on them. And it's not just going to protect for fleas and ticks at that instant, it's actually going to help for mosquitoes as well. So the general needs for at home, I would recommend soaking their collars. Like if they're going to go outside and use the bathroom and come back in, or go outside and play a little bit and come back in, go ahead and soak that collar. If they're wearing one, it's not going to hurt them. I'd take a nylon collar, do the exact same ingredients from before, mix it with 4 ounces of water, 10 drops each, soak it for 20 minutes every 2 weeks, and you have prevention right there that you don't have to remember to put on. You set a calendar, and for 2 weeks they have preventative on them, and they're safe. I would say that if they're really messy dogs, so my huskies love to play in mud. So like for me, I'm going to take their collars off and I'm going to soak it in the Abode dish soap line, and really cleans that dirt out of it before I soak it in the next 2 weeks recipe, because I want to make sure that the oils are really getting into that collar and not just coming like dispersing with the dirt. So if you have a clean dog and they don't like dirt, because one of my huskies doesn't like dirt, she's pretty clean, so I don't have to do it necessarily with her. But those dogs that like to go play in the mud, which of course are my white dogs, we have to soak their collars often. Or you can do a rotating schedule as well. I have one dog that I rotate their collars because they get it so dirty that I can't even tell where the clasp is sometimes. Anyway, so the next one's going to be in your home. You can use the exact same recipes. Now, you can use the dog recipe in a cat home if you have dogs. I would actually recommend that. But what I'm going to recommend if you're going to use the dog recipe in cats is to be careful. Make sure that that cat is not in that room, that there is plenty of airflow. If you're going to spray down the doors, make sure that cat can get away from it. Or even if you already have a bad experience with Peppermint, don't use it, or keep them in another room that they're not going to have issues with it. Ventilate that room that they're in as well, so they're not going to even be around it. Let that dry, and once it's dry, your cats can go around it. It should not have any effect on them. They might not like the smell of it, but they're not going to necessarily have any kind of reaction once that spray is dry. But that'll really protect your home as well. I recommend doing your doors every 2 weeks, and your door frames. So not just the bottom, but the entire door frame, because those little buggers can come in through the whole frame of the door. I recommend doing the frames of windows if you live like lower on the ground. Even like if you want to do a mass production, you can actually spray the bottom part of the whole bottom part of your house. It's not going to hurt your kiddos. It's not going to hurt your dogs or cats, as long as they can be separated from the space. If it's a cat and we don't want them licking it and things of that nature, but once it's dry, there's no issues there. For infestations, and I don't mean this as in you can't live in your house. I'm saying your dog has been on vacation for 2 weeks. It's got fleas on it. You're having to bathe them to get them off. That is still an infestation, guys. So if you bring your dog home, or they've been with your brother for 2 weeks because you're on vacation, and you bring it home and they have fleas, as soon as it goes in your house, guess what? The fleas are in your house. I would recommend doing the Terra Shield, the geranium, the eucalyptus, and you're going to do this in like a bomb style. You are going to take a full diffuser and diffuse the entire area where the animal would sleep. You're going to do the doorways again. I would actually spray the ground. I would spray my furniture, spray my beddings, wash my bed sheets, because they will live in all of it, just like little dust mites will. But you're going to do it in a lot larger scale. So for this, it says the exact same ingredients. Says diffuse everywhere or in the main sleeping area. If they've only gone in one room, I'd still diffuse the rest of your house. For cats, if you have an infestation and you are diffusing your entire house, you cannot just put them in another room. For this one, I would recommend taking these guys to the vet, letting them hang out at the vet all day. Say, look, I have an infestation. I need to board them for the day. Most vets are cool with this. They will say, sure. Sometimes it does cost, but if it's for the better health of you and your pets, I mean, for me, I would rather pay the small fee to board my cat so that I can really get rid of these fleas than I would not doing it at all. And then what you're going to do after that is you're going to take an abode cleansing line or a regular cleansing, whatever you would do to cleanse your air. So like an Airex would even work. And you'd actually do that once your cat gets home. You want to really cleanse that air of everything going on, because that'll help you guys breathe as well. Another thing you can do for an infestation is black pepper, oregano, wild orange, peppermint. You're going to do 10 drops of that in a water diffuser. This is for like your really bad infestations, guys. Like, I wouldn't recommend just doing this on a whim, because this one you definitely have to relocate your cat. You can't just move them from room to room. I'd open all interior doors when you're in your home and place a diffuser in the most central location of each room. If you can't do all the rooms, just the most central location in the house. Diffuse this on high for 3 to 4 hours, or excuse me, 2 to 3 hours, and even leave your home, because you're not going to want to smell this either. It's going to be a really, really strong, intense smell. If you can handle it, by all means, you can stay in there, but you don't want to be around the little flea critters either, because they'll jump on you just like they'll jump on your cat and dog. Again, when you return home, I would diffuse an abode blend or a cleansing blend for another 1 to 2 hours and vacuum everywhere so that you can get all the little critters' bodies up, because they're not just going to leave. Some of them are going to die. Again, board your kitties, relocate them, let them spend the day with grandma. Yes, it's going to be stressful on your kid to do that, but I have blends coming up for your cats that are going to be stressed in this situation, just like they would be at home. So our next one is nervous Nellies. So this is what I'm talking about for stress: separation anxiety, noise anxiety, introductory anxiety, depression, and aggression. So separation anxiety, that one is actually going to help with the cats that are separate from their houses. Yes, it's a different type of anxiety clinically, but that recipe will help your kiddos that are being relocated because of a flea infestation. For this, we can do topical massage or aromatics. Typically, we're going to say aromatics because we want a longer effect. Excuse me. But for those kiddos that are just like super, super stressed when their grandparents come over because they don't like new people, you can actually massage it on them guys and really get them calm before grandma and grandpa come over to visit the new dogs. Okay, so our first one is separation anxiety. So everybody knows we got more animals during COVID, and now COVID's kind of dying out some, not all the way, but some. And we got people that have to go back to work. They can't work from home anymore, but their pets have seen them for the last year. So for separation anxiety for cats and dogs, I recommend cedarwood, petitgreen, and frankincense. If you have rose, this one is amazing for separation anxiety, but I know rose is super pricey. You can do this on a roller bottle on the tips of their ears and along their neck. When I say along their neck, even just like on humans, right along where the tuft of the hair looks different. And that would be where their jugular vein is, to really get that in there. I would do 2 to 4 drops of each of these in a diffuser in the room that your pet's going to be in the most. So if you don't cage them, or if it's a cat, because most cats don't get caged when you're gone, just diffuse it in the room they like to hang out in. If you don't know, diffuse it in a couple places. Any way you can get it into these guys, it really does help. I had one that had separation anxiety for most of its life. She's older now, and my husband actually works from home, so I don't really have to worry about it too much. But before, when we were both traveling for work and not in the household, she had to have drugs every time we'd leave her because she would tear my house up. So separation anxiety can stem from just being nervous and peeing on the floor, or even eating walls. And yes, she ate my walls. For this, I would recommend topically for cats, 0.5%, topically for small dogs, 0.5%, for the larger breeds, 1%. For the giant breeds, I'm saying over 100 pounds, I'd even start out with 1%, just because some of these giant breeds have separation anxiety like nobody's business. And then for them, I'd even diffuse more often. Like, you can diffuse while you're there just to get them used to it, like an hour before you go to work. Like, if you first thing you get up, you put the diffuser on, then you get ready for work, that can really calm them down and bring it down a notch and get them to understand that it's a safe place at home. For noise anxiety, and I'm talking gunshots, large bangs, you drop a pot, fireworks, any of that kind of thing. You want bergamot, lavender, and myrrh mixed together. Again, for this one, if you have rose, it's great, add it in or use it by itself. But noise anxiety is one of those things where you don't know when it's going to happen. So you can't just say, oh, let me get some medications, doctor. My dog's afraid of gunshots. Unless you're the one shooting, you don't know when it's going to happen. If you live in town, you don't have to worry about this as much, but there's trains in town, there's honking horns in town. And this will work for all of that. So you're going to roller bottle this more so than diffuse if it's during a high like celebrity time. So when we have like baseball games that shoot fireworks every Friday night, or if we have a cannon go off, because some of our football teams do that, or 4th of July, lots of fireworks there, I would diffuse that starting in the beginning of the day. If you have a situation where a gun goes off or a truck backfires and your dog freaks out, I would get that roller bottle out and put it on the tips of the ears and along the neck. We don't want to put this directly on cats. The reason I say not to do it on cats is because of the bergamot. If it's once in a while at a 0.5%, the bergamot's not necessarily going to hurt cats that much because of we're worried about the liver. But if you're diffusing it, it's not going to hurt the cat at all. If you want to take the bergamot out so you can use it topically, great, works as well. Or if you have rose, you can use rose by itself or add it in. Either way, it works. Again, we know it's pricey, so not all owners are going to have that. But if you do have it and you have some to spare for those really high stress situations, great. I mean, it's going to work for you and them the same way. So diffusing that, a couple drops of that in your diffuser during firework time, both of y'all will be nice and relaxed. So the introductory anxiety, what I'm saying here is when you have a new pet come over, or if you have a new baby coming into the house or a new friend, that your kiddo has never seen, or even if they've met them 15 times and every time they're anxious, that's still an introductory anxiety because they don't live in your house. We're going to do bergamot, lavender, and Roman chamomile for that one. Again, any kind of anxiety, rose is the number one. Roller bottle, except for on cats. Diffuse in the room for that one as well. If you know you're going to have a party and you have a bunch of friends coming over, or even if a dinner date's coming over and you're prepared for that, and it's not just a, hey, I'm coming by and they're there in 2 minutes. I'd go ahead and diffuse like an hour before your friends get there, so your dog or cat has plenty of time to calm down and know that it's a safe space either way. For the roller bottle for this one, just because we're doing something that's a high stress, I would do a 0.5% to start with, but once they get used to the combination, I would actually go up to the next level for each of them. 1% for cats and small dogs, and then 2% for regular dogs, and then even 3% for our giant breeds. Just because we know that this isn't something they're going to get over. Sometimes dogs can be afraid of a noise, and then once they get used to it because they've heard it 10 times or 100 times, depending on what kind of noise it is, they mellow out and they're used to it, and they don't need the blend anymore. But for introductories, typically, unless it's somebody that comes around a whole lot, you're always going to have somebody new come around in your life. You're always going to have a new friend or a new neighbor, or new kids if you have kids at home. So for that one, I'd still recommend the higher dose just to be safe. That way your kiddos feel comfortable with all the people around them. And then depression. So we have the separation anxiety with the COVID, but we also have those that are depressed. They don't necessarily get anxious when you're gone, but they get super upset when you walk out the door, and you could just be going to the mailbox and coming back. We have one of those in my house. My husband leaves at all, and she just won't eat for me. She won't eat for my friends. She won't eat for anybody because she is depressed and only wants him. So for this one, we do helichrysum, ylang-ylang, and sandalwood. And sandalwood's a really big one for this one. I probably should have listed it first, but I, for some reason, didn't. I don't know. I would say I did alphabetical order, but it doesn't look like I did that either. But if you don't have any of them but the sandalwood, do the sandalwood. This one's going to be a big one that you're going to do roller bottle and diffusing. I wouldn't just pick one or the other for this one. If you know your kiddo gets really depressed when you're gone, even when you walk out the door, the reason I say roller bottle first is because it gives them the immediate effect, and then you can diffuse it while you're gone to maintain that effect, and even use it when you get back. Because yeah, they'll be excited when you get back, but that can help combat that depression for the next time. For this, I would say start at the low 0.5% for cats and dogs, and then 1% for large breeds. I would probably go up to the 2% to start off with the giant breeds, just because they tend to get more depression than the littler breeds. We do have some of the micro breeds that actually tend to be more depressed than most breeds in general, just because they're so used to always being in your lap and being with you. But the giant breeds have more of a depression than anxiety situation. They either have a lot of anxiety or they are really depressed. So you would know your babies better than I would, and your vet can talk to you about that. But for this one, I would definitely recommend a higher dose. Again, it's a lot less hot oils there. There's not anything that you're going to have to be careful with in that regards for cats and dogs. So I would do the no cap on first if you're going to start off with a higher dose, just to make sure nobody's going to get really nervous by it or just not like it at all. And then aggression. So aggression doesn't really fall under nervous Nellies, but it's a psychosomatic issue. Aggression is one of those ones where we don't know what the trigger is. So if we have a trigger and we know that trigger, obviously we're going to avoid the trigger as well. But if you just have generalized aggression where your cat or dog is going to bat at you or nip at somebody all the time, or they're just overly angry at their housemate, or they play with their housemate for 5 or 6 days and then they decide to jump on them one day, and then 5 or 6 days they're fine again. This is the kind of aggression I'm talking about. I'm not talking about targeted aggression where they know that they don't like men. They know that they don't like the neighbor's dog, or they hate cats. I mean, this blend is not going to say, oh my God, I like cats now, or oh, I'm okay with my neighbor. This will actually bring down some of the notches of aggression, but it's not going to get rid of those targeted aggressions. So just clearing that up to make sure we understand that it's general. So spikenard is really, really good for aggression, but in using it in conjunction with Carmamide and Copaiba will really help bring all of that pent up aggression together. So aggression, you have some anxiety there, you have some depression there. It's not just you're mad at something, and dogs are the same way. So that's why we want to really use that blend. I recommend for both for any case, but also targeted. You're going to do the roller bottle, you're going to diffuse. Again, it's not going to help with targeting. If we have a targeted situation, the roller bottle will bring down the notches, but if they're going to attack a cat, they're still going to attack a cat. It's just going to help the situation a little bit more. If you're walking down the street and they don't like other dogs, they might not be as likely to jump at that dog if you're just walking by versus no help whatsoever. For this, start out low, work your way up. We want to do the 0.5% for cats. Definitely work your way up to 2% for cats if they have like a cage aggression at the vet's office. We have cats that are great cats outside of the cage. As soon as you put them in the cage, they're trying to eat your hands and you can't get them out. So like for that, it's yes, still considered targeting because that you know exactly what the aggression is, but it will bring them down enough to where you can get them out of the kennel. And then for small dogs and large dogs, it depends on what the targeted aggression is. It might not necessarily work as well, but for generalized aggression, I would start low and then work your way up until you have that desired effect. If you have your desired effect at 0.5% for a 20-pound dog, don't go up, because if they start to get used to these effects and then they start to get more courage behind them, because yes, courage is a part of aggression also, then they might actually be more they might need more in the future. So just make sure you start as low as you can and stay as low as you can in that regards. But for cats, we do typically say you need to go a little bit higher, because for like cage aggression and things of that nature, it's a lot of fear-based aggression. So now I've gotten to the point where I know everybody has a lot of questions, so please hit me with questions.
Okay, I have a question. Rash. My dog has really sensitive, he's really sensitive, like as far as like food goes. We can't really try any new foods. We did find a new food that's really doing well for him, but he has like a grass allergy. When he's outside too much, his skin gets just red as red can be. We do Benadryl, but I'm like, there's got to be some oils that are going to help calm that down a little.
Okay, there are oils that will help calm the irritation part of itchiness down. So itchiness is an inflammatory response. You want to bring the inflammatory response down, and there are oils that are considered crap, now I can't think of the word. So Benadryl is what is Benadryl? Now I can't think of the word. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
So when you take Benadryl, you're attacking the receptor so that the allergen doesn't attack the receptor, because I, for the life of me, cannot think of what Benadryl drug class is for right this second. So there are oils out there that work in the same way that Benadryl does. Lavender is one of them. Lavender will help attack that receptor. That will help stop the itchiness. Now, it doesn't get rid of itchy. It just makes it to where you don't think you're itchy.
Okay.
For rashes in general, I would probably recommend a blend of things. I'm going to have to look up all the blends depending on for allergic rashes versus regular rashes. But I would do a spray bottle for that blend. If it's like, say he licks his feet a whole lot.
He does.
I would spray his feet.
Okay.
Because that blend's going to get in there and it's going to be less likely for him to touch them. Now, a lot of vets out there are going to say if you put liquid on an animal, they're going to be more likely to lick it. yes, that can be the case. If that ends up being the case for you, don't put a spray bottle. Do a roller bottle that'll dry quicker. Just because they're wet, some dogs are triggered by wet equals lick. Some dogs are not. If you also have that issue, I'd recommend making a shampoo. You can get like an oatmeal style, plain oatmeal shampoo, no scent, nothing else in it. Blend your oils in it and do it like in your hand. You can even blend it in your hand, and put it on him.
Okay.
And because you're washing away, it's not as bad as just putting the oils on them. You're also mixing it in that shampoo, and that shampoo will help you massage those oils in there. If you've ever used an anti-itch style shampoo, I would do the same method. So an anti-itch style shampoo, you're gonna lather them up and leave it on for a few seconds to a minute. I mean, we even say for like dogs that have like a true rash, like where they've gotten an infection, to leave it up to 5 minutes. So you can actually work it up to where you're leaving it up longer and see if that works better. But you can also do antihistamine. That is the word. It came to me. So you can also do antihistamines orally. So lavender can be taken orally, and that will help also. So like if we can get him on a regimen where he's doing something every day, it's kind of like us taking a Zyrtec or a Claritin versus taking Benadryl every day. Obviously, we don't have Zyrtec and Claritin capabilities for dogs,
Right.
but this would be a substitute in that sense. So Benadryl, typically we say to give Benadryl for the aftermath, we're relieving the issue. Whereas Claritin and Zyrtec, we're attacking the issue before it starts. And the same with the spray. If you're going to be outside for a long time, spray his feet and then let him go outside. If he licks it, he licks it. He's just taking it internally at that point. But he's outside, so he's less likely to lick it because there's more distraction. But it's also going to be almost a preventative in that sense, as it's kind of blocking the issue. But I'll have to look up some more stuff to make sure that I get everything you need. So just shoot me an email at the end. My email will be down there, and I can help you out a lot more with that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gabby.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I think I have some chats in here. Oh, so we had somebody that asked what anorexia is. So anorexia is like basically not eating. So you like loss of appetite is you don't want to eat, but you will, or you'll eat a little bit, or you're shying away from food, might come back to
Gabby,
it.
it is actually, I just kind of, you were talking about anorexia and I was like, anorexia in cats? What? So I was just like, sorry, I knew what anorexia was, but I was like, I never heard that a dog or a cat would get anorexia. What?
So it's used a little bit differently in pets. So anorexia in humans is a diagnosis. Anorexia in cats and dogs is a symptom. So
Gotcha.
that would be the biggest difference. We're not going to say your dog is anorexic in the sense of he's never going to eat or he has a psychological disorder. Dogs and cats are anorexic for a medical reason. There is a reason behind it. They're not going to just choose not to eat. It's not going to be a psychosomatic symptom at that point.
Gotcha.
If I don't have any other questions, I'm going to move on. Do I have any more questions?
No.
Nope. Okay. Okay, so this is an important notice. So please note that some of these recipes are not to be used with certain medications and certain diseases. I notated some of them in regards of this isn't going to hurt medications, but I didn't notate all of them. If you have any personal pets that have medications, please shoot me an email, or if they have any diseases, because diabetes is a big one. We have a long list of medications and with diabetes that we don't need to use certain oils for. So please let me know. I can set up a consult to talk to you guys personally, because I don't want you to just start using these because they're great recipes, but your kid has insulin every day or is on a prednisone dose every day. So just make sure that you consult with your veterinarian, or at least talk to me, so we know what's safe for your individual babies. And I'll leave that up there for a second so you guys can write it down. Okay. And then these are the top 10 oils recommended by Dr. Rourke. She's a big essential oil vet and has a veterinary license as well. She wholeheartedly believes that these are going to be the best oils for you to get in regards to your pet and to just have. So frankincense, helichrysum, On Guard. We're going to use On Guard extra carefully because On Guard is a blend of some of the hotter oils. Roman chamomile, balance, lavender, digestion. Remember that has peppermint in it, so we're going to be careful with cats with that one. Myrrh, copaiba, and serenity. And the serenity is a blend that we use similar to the balance for calming effects. Balance is going to have an overall calm down, yes, but it's going to keep you at that level, where serenity is more of a restful blend. But both of these blends are good for any anxiety patients, along with the recipes that I put on there. But these are the top 10s. I have the next slide. I have an essential oils kit that doesn't have everything in the top 10, but it has a lot. So this is the most common one that we would say, if you're going to enroll today, this is the one for you. It has a diffuser in it, and it has 90% of what you're going to use from the recipes versus the top 10. Yes, there's some other ones in here, as you can see in the picture. So On Guard is on there, balance is on there, copaiba, and then lavender are on there. Those are in the top 10. Digestion's in the top 10. Adaptive is on there. So adaptive's not in the top 10, but adaptive is very similar to the balance and to the serenity. It's a blend that's going to bring things down for a notch for you guys and for your pets. It will help them just as much as it helps you. I recommend diffusing this in either in conjunction with the recipes for our high anxiety kids or just by itself. Deep Blue, that one's got peppermint and wintergreen in it. That one, yes, we have wintergreen on the list of do not use with dogs, but if you use it in extreme moderation and you dilute it a lot, so we're saying 0.5% for all dogs, even half of that, even 0.25%, which would be 1 drop in 60 mils of fractionated coconut oil, that's still going to be a really good one for any of those muscle aches and pains. Breathe, if you're going to take Breathe and you're going to put that in the diffuser, that is a respiratory blend, and yes, it has peppermint in it, but be careful with cats. But it will help open some airways for the brachiocephalic kids. If you have a history of asthma, I probably wouldn't use it for cats with asthma, but you can use it to help some of these brachiocephalics that can't breathe as well. You can use it if your kiddos are just in generally stopped up because they have a respiratory infection. I wouldn't use it topically on them, but diffusing it is not going to be as bad. Peppermint. So this is the one that we don't want to use with cats, but you can use it with dogs. You can use it on yourself. And then lavender, that was one of the top 10. That's also in the Serenity blend. Lavender is going to help a lot of different things. So that's why we definitely recommend that one. The last one that's not on the top 10 is going to be lemon. This one's more of a cleansing blend, cleansing oil because it's a citrus oil. Be careful with that with cats, but it can help a lot of dogs when it comes to cleansing out their system or just cleansing the air for your cats and dogs. So all of these can be used for you. All of these can be used for your pets in certain scenarios. Retail cost, that's $332. Yes, that's a lot of money, but you're not going to pay that. You're going to pay wholesale. It's going to be $249 for all of this. Yes, I know that it's expensive, but when you have to calculate how much money that you spend on medications or vet visits, when you can actually consult over the phone with your vet and then do your own home remedies for some of these things, it can really change how much money you're spending in the long run. So just think about that part, you guys. For today, for the next 3 hours, actually we have a couple more hours on the West Coast. We're gonna do a thing for you guys. So if you get enrolled today, you get a free TerraShield if you're one of the first 10 people. So TerraShield is one of those big repellent blends. So that's one of the top things that we're putting in the dog collars and all of the flea tick blends that I had talked to you guys about. So you're going to get that for free if you sign up today and you're part of the top 10. You can use it by itself. This link right here is for you guys that aren't on here, that are not wholesale, so that you can sign up today. If you have any questions in regards to signing up today and you want to, but you're still a little leery, just email me. You guys have my email now. So I can get you some more information on all those oils. And guys, please attend my next session. My next session is going to be Essential Oils 102. When I call it 102, it's going to be kind of a continuation of this. I'm going to have a couple more recipes that we're going to go over. No, we're not going to do all of the nitty gritty at the beginning, but we're going to have a lot of question and answer. We're going to have a lot of true and false to see what your guys' knowledges are out there, because not everybody got to the Terra Talks, and not everybody knows about just cats and dogs in general. So please come be with me on October 14th at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And that's all I got for today. Does anyone else have any more questions before we call it?